Sup guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on the new series that I started, the Stalker series. I mean not the Stalker series, but the game inspired by the Stalker series. And what I have here is a blank third-person BP template. I haven't touched anything, so I'm going to go with you and go through some setups. The first thing, because the game is going to be multiplayer or co-op, I'm going to need to set up 3 screens. So the default mode on a play is just a viewport. I'm going to need to go into this little arrow here, and I'm going to put the number of players to be 3. And then I'm going to go into the advanced settings, and I'm going to divide the new window size by 1.5 and 1.5. I believe that's it. And I'm going to uncheck always center window to screen. And then when I play in new other window, I have 3 completely different windows. And I'm just going to put them like this. And so as you can see, I can see at the same time the clients and the server working. So because I'm going to be working on multiplayer, I'm going to need to check everything if it works between client and client, client and server, and all of those relations. So what I'm going to be doing today exactly is going to be part of the locomotion of the character. And I think I'm going to start with a crouch and like the basic things like walking, then crouching, and then maybe sprinting if we have time. I don't want to make the videos too long. I'm just going to delete this character over here because we're going to be spawning from our player starts over here. So I'm going to put 3 of them so we can spawn on each one. There you go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to need to come up with some animations. That I have some animations here. This is from the Pistol Anim Set Pro from the marketplace. I'm going to use the source files because when I import, I want to import directly into the skeleton of this, the default UE4 mannequin. Because I'm going to be using that skeleton for all my characters, and I want to be able to use all the animations in all the characters. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it data. This is going to be the folder where I'm going to be putting everything custom that I do or import, and I'm going to leave the default stuff over here, and other marketplace content that I'm going to import later on, I'm going to leave them outside, and my own stuff I'm going to leave inside this folder. So I'm going to go and create a new folder. I'm going to call this animations, and I'm just going to import. Now this is going to take some time, but I'm going to pause the video so you guys don't have to sit through this. But the way that I do it, I drag everything in, and I just don't import the mesh, and I choose the skeleton, the UE4 mannequin skeleton from the default character from Unreal. And I just click import all, and now it's going to take a long time because it's going to import a lot of animations. So I'm just going to pause, and I'll see you guys in a minute. Okay, so the animation is finished importing. I know that you guys probably don't have this. If you have, you can use your marketplace. You can import it. But if you don't have bought this on the marketplace, if you go into Patreon, you can get the project files. But you can't release the game like anything. You can't release it in game because I don't have you don't have the license. You need to buy it from the marketplace if you want to release your game. So I think it's fine if you just get my project and just use animations for now to learn, but then you have either buy the pack or find new animations for it. So with that said, I'm gonna get going. I got a lot of animations. So first of all, I'm going to start by doing the crouch. So I'm going to create a new folder in our data folder called blueprints. Then I'm going to create another folder called characters, and I'm just going to find the third person BP because I'm going to use that as a default, and I'm going to drag that in. There you go. I want that into the characters, and I'm just going to name it human character. I guess I'm going to call it Master Human. There you go, it's easier. Because I'm going to have a lot of artificial intelligence, I'm going to use this character both for the AI and the players. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to divide the inputs like I'm only going to have generic functions there that work both for the player and the AI. That way you don't have like two pieces of code running. Like if you do like a character for the player, another one for the AI, you're gonna have pretty much the same code or similar code running, basically two instances. What you can do here is that you can do this character and use it for both, and it's very easy. It's easier to work with because everything is inside one blueprint, and it's like in small compartments, so you don't have like code all over the place in two blueprints, etc. So if you change something, for example, you fix some code that was wrong in the player, it's going to fix both the AI and the player components because you are using the same blueprint. So I'm gonna do that. I think it's way better. I'm just going to delete these touch inputs and the gamepad stuff because I'm not gonna mess with this. And the one thing for the AI is, you can have the camera components. If you want, you can run some code to like remove these at runtime, but it doesn't matter really because the camera only works if it's associated with the player controller, so it doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select everything and I'm going to cut. I'm going to compile and save. And now I'm going to go into the blueprints. I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call this controllers. And I'm just going to go into blueprint class and get a player controller. And I'm going to call this my player controller. And now I'm going to create the blueprint class, and I'm going to expand the all classes because I need to get the AI controller. And I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to call this human AI controller. So now you're going to have this separated, and I'm going to go open up my player controller. I'm going to go into the event graph, and I'm going to just Control V to paste the code. And now I just got to go into now some things are not going to work. Actually, I'm going to delete the jump as well because I'm going to use a vault system later on. I'm going to work on that, so there's not going to be like any free jumps because that goes a little bit against what I want to do. And I'm going to set up some vault later on, so I'm going to delete this. And these errors over here, it's because you need to get the controlled pawn, because remember, you are calling this from the character, so the self is already going to be a pawn. But since you are in the controller, you need to get the controlled pawn and connect that up. And I'm going to just connect this into the get control rotation over here. And I think everything will be fine as that. Oh no, we need to connect it over here as well. Let's drag that in over here. Connect the targets. Compile and save. So I'm going to go into the world settings, and I'm going to use the third person game mode for now. It's fine. The default pawn, you can already see it's the master human, but now I'm going to put the player controller and I'm going to put my player controller. So now if I play, you can see the movement is working and it's already replicated. And I'm going to do it with the client as well. You can see it's working and replicated fine. So what happened? Oh, I know what that is. It's because the character is the controller is going to be associated with you, so it's going to be running this code before the character is actually spawned. So for some ticks there, like some milliseconds, it's going to return null on the get control pawn because the character hasn't spawned yet, and it's giving those errors. So what we got to do is just do an is valid over here and connect that up. And we only want to execute this if it is valid. And we got to do the same over here for these inputs as well. Actually, we already got this node over here. And Control C, Control V. There you go. So that's the code. If we compile and now play, and we can wait just a little bit. Let's walk around. Everything works fine. And now you get no errors when you exit. So that's fixed. So now you can actually get to do the crouch. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get the third person NMBP, and I'm going to move it into the character blueprints that we created in a while ago. Let's go there. Now we're going to have this. I'm going to call this the human NMBP. Let's open that up. Well, now you can see that we already have some default code. So for instance, this is an inner variable that we're getting. I'm going to delete that since we're not using the jumping. We do not need that. So we are going to use the speed. So I'm going to drag this over here. And I'm also going to I'm going to need to cast in a while, that's why I'm getting this here. I'm also going to cast to the human or master human. There you go. We're going to need to get a variable from there, and that variable I'm going to create it right now. Let's compile this. It's going to be called isCrouch. I'm not sure if that's how you spell it, but doesn't matter. Compile and save. And make sure you make that replicated, because this is a multiplayer game, so you need to get that replicated. And over here in the human BP, the NMBP, we're going to get isCrouched. Don't get this one. I think this one is a default one. You want the one that is under default. That's the one that we just created. Now you want to promote this to a variable and call it isCrouched. You don't need to replicate this one. Anything inside the NMBP does not need to be replicated because you are only getting information. You're never setting any information inside the NMBP. You shouldn't do that in a real game because things are going to break. You only get information and set just local variables over here, so you can now go into the NM graph and you can work getting those variables. You do not need to replicate anything inside the NMBP. So this jumps over here in the NM graph. I'm going to delete that. And now I'm going to need to create two things. You can see over here in the idle run, there's a blend space. I'm going to create two of those. One blend space for the standing and one blend space for the crouching. We're going to need to do that. So I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to leave the speed variable because we're going to use it. You can see that now we're going to T-pose. That's fine. Now you're going to need to go into animations. And let's just create, we can create it over here. It's fine. Let's go into animation and go into blend space 1D. It's going to be into the UE4 mannequin skeleton, the skeleton that we imported the animations. I'm going to call it BS for blend space underscore standing underscore pistol, because then we're gonna have rifles and stuff like that, so we need to have different blend spaces for each set of type of weapon that we can use. And I'm just going to do underscore. I don't need to continue. I was going to write idle walk run, but that's kind of, there's going to be the only blend space that we're going to use, so it's for walk, idle and stuff, so I'm not going to name that, doesn't need to. And we're going to go into the axis settings, horizontal axis, and I'm going to set this to be the speed. So the speed of the character is going to drive which animation is going to be playing. The maximum axis is going to be 600 because that's the speed of the character when running. That's what I'm going to set it to. And the number of divisions down here, you can see that it changes. I'm going to set it to 6, so it goes 100, 200, etc. So I'm going to go into idle. You can get the pistol idle. I'm not sure if the idle is going to look too good or the relaxed. I'm probably going to get this one because the other animations are using this as well. So you can see the character uses that right now. And now we're going to go into the walk. And we need to find the walk forward over here. There you go. Oh, this is the crouched. We want the normal one. There you go, this one. Let's go into the 200. So you can see already the blend doing this. By the way, if you want to see the preview, you need to hold shift and just move the mouse over here and you can see what happens in the viewport. Now I'm going to go into sprint. I'm going to get the sprint loop and drag it over here. So now you can see how it blends. It's very cool, these animations, and that's why I got them. And now that we got this, let's go over here. The BS standing pistol, that's I just duplicated, and I'm going to leave the same name, and I'm just going to go and change standing to crouched. And now we're going to need to change some settings. So the crouch speed, I'm going to leave it at 200. So that's going to be the max. And I'm going to delete this animations, because I'm not going to use the same. And I'm going to get crouched. Crouch. There you go. I'm going to get the idle. It's this one. There you go. So you can see how it looks. Then I'm going to get the walk. Where is it? There you go. And it's going to be the 200. There you go. You can see how it looks. Very cool. So now, well, we're going to go over here into the anim pose, and we're going to do something. First of all, let me just rename this node. I'm going to call this standing. And then I'm going to go into asset browser and get my standing blend space. Connect this up, and you can already see everything working over here. And I'm going to create a new state machine, or whatever the hell it's called, a state, set a state, and it's going to be crouched. Now you can see that we have these two arrows over here. I just dragged one for another to create another one. So this is basically, in what condition do we want to go crouched, and in what condition do we want to be standing again. So it's going to be very simple. Let's click on the standing to crouched, and we just want to do this when we are crouched. And then when we want to get standing again is when we are not crouched. So let's just drag a not boolean from the variable and connect this up. Very simple. I think I just remember something, because we're gonna have those items. Sorry, what I want to explain is later on when we have an inventory, we are going to basically get these animations from whatever item we are using. So if we are using a pistol, we're going to use these blend spaces. If we are using a rifle, we're going to have another ones. So I want to be able to have this as a variable. So I can actually set it here. Let me just go into crouched and drag this in. And if you go over here and you expose the blend space, click on this little eye. Now you can actually access this as a variable, so you can change this at runtime. It's very good. So if you're doing an inventory, you just go into the item details then when you do them, and you just set a little variable there to what blend space do you want to use for that item, and you can just pass on that through this. What I'm going to do is just right click, promote to variable, and call this the crouched BS. And gonna go into the standing, right click, and standing BS, and compile and save. And if you go into the details, you can see the defaults are already the ones that we used. If you want to change them, you can just go over here and change other blend spaces. So if I actually go over here into the standing, and I want to change this into the third person idle run, you can see it changes, but I want to use the standing. So these are very cool settings. It's a little bit even over, so a lot of people don't know about this, but it's very useful. It keeps the state machine very clean and efficient. If you have to do like is rifle equipped, and you just reuse everything and copy and paste and do like a bool over here in the graph to change different state machines, if you do it this way, it's super organized and much more efficient. Now for what we need to do now, we set up the NMBP. Now we gotta go into the master human and actually do our custom event over here. So I'm gonna do a client underscore set is crouched, and I'm going to do this replicate unknown in client. The reason I'm doing this is because if you go into the player controller and you go into the class defaults, you can see that it is not replicated. Normally controllers do not replicate. I don't know if you actually can replicate it. I think you can, but normally you leave this at false, and you basically just if you want to communicate, first you tell the client what you want to do, and then the client will tell the server. So now you're going to create a new custom event. This time it's going to be on the server. Set is crouched. And there's something that I really want Epic Games to add to this, is that you can either like an event to not being seen in other blueprints. Because now if I go back here and I try to call that, basically both of these are going to appear as a function that I can call, but actually I never want to call this directly. I want to always call this one first. So I really want Epic to add something that we can hide the events from being called as a function in other public blueprints. You know, just something to add up. I think someone requested it, but I don't know if it's coming. So okay, sorry about the ramble. Let's just go in and drag the crouched variable, connect this, and then drag the input into over here to add the pin. And now you're just going to call the server set is crouched and drag this again to create a pin. And now we actually have a character. Now when we have this, for example, in the AI, we can just, in the AI controller, we can call is crouched, and it will crouch the same way as it will for the player. So the only thing changing is what's calling the function. In this case, we're going to use an input. I'm going to right click and do CTRL, so control. But you can have whatever key you want. It's normal. And for the AI, basically it's not going to be a key, but it's going to be, I don't know, the reflection if he's under fire or something like that. He's going to crouch behind some cover or whatever. But the function that you call in the character is the same one, so it's cool. So now what do we want to call? We want to get the controlled pawn. Controlled pawn. Now, because it's just returning a normal pawn, we want to cast to master human. Now you're just going to say, well, client set is crouched, and we say that we want to crouch. And now it depends on you if you want to do a flip-flop over here. So every time you press control, you go down, and then when you press control again, you stand up. Or if you want to do an hold, so as long as you have the key holding, you're gonna be crouched. What I'm gonna do is gonna be the toggle, so it's a little bit better. So I'm gonna drag from over here, and I'm gonna do a flip-flop. So what is this is every time this execution pin gets hit, he's going to play A and then B and then A and then B, and it never repeats a pin twice, like in a row. So it basically does a flip-flop, like the name of the node. So I'm going to say, well, when I click the second time, I want to set it to false. And I'm just going to hold this. I'm going to comment this, set is crouched. So because the character is probably going to get a lot of functions and stuff like that, I'm going to try and comment everything so it stays clean. I'm also going to do the same thing in the player controller. So I'm going to say crouch. There you go. So I'm going to compile and save, and now we can actually test this. Let's play. So you can see the animations are working, and we are sprinting as a default because we are using the 600 speed, a set max walk speed. So now you can crouch, and it's super fast. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I want to do. I want to set the speeds of the character. Actually, I don't need to do that because we are going to be walking. I want to set that up. So let's go into the max walk speed and set this to 200. Because I'm going to want to have a sprint and the stamina system. We're probably going to work that on the next video. But the reason that I'm not calling set speed when I crouch is because it's at the same speed. You can see that it's working. Very cool, as a client and server. So that's pretty awesome. And the reason that I'm not setting the speed over here after I set this is because I'm going to have a blueprint, not a blueprint, sorry, a variable, then like saying is sprinting, and I'm not going to be able to crouch if I'm sprinting. So I'm always going to be at 200 speed when I press the key to be crouched. It's going to be mandatory in the code. So I never need to set the speed when you crouch and stand up, because you're always going to go to stand to walk and to walk to crouch. Yeah, I think I messed up over there. But imagine that you are using your character with 300 speed over here. You actually need to set I'm actually gonna do that. It's not too bad. So I'm just gonna go over here, get the character movement. I'm going to set the max walk speed, and now remember, because you are working on a multiplayer game, you cannot drag directly from a reference like lose over here as the server, because it's just going to get the character movement of the server, so it's only going to set the character on the server. If you try to set like this, the speed on the client, it's not going to set, because this information is only going to get the character movement component of the server side, never the client. So you need to unpin this and drag this over here and set this as a reference, so you can go over here and connect this up. So if you do it this way, it's always going to get the client that toggled the button, is always going to get the correctly character movement. And then just set the max walk speed again as a pin, and over here again. Now you go into the player controller and you can set this up. So I'm going to say when I crouch, I'm going to say I want to be 10. It's super stupid, but it's just so you can see it works. And when I stand up, I want to be at 600. I know these values are wrong, but it's just for you to see that it works. So right now we are walking at normal speed. If I crouch, I'm going to be super slow. If I stand up, I'm going to get to 600 speed. And you can see it's working. Let's see it for the client as well. So we are walking slow. Now we can really walk. And what the hell is happening there? Okay, I need to fix that. So if we stand up, okay, what is happening? I think I accidentally found a bug while explaining this. Let me just drag the character movement as a pin as well. And let's go into the player controller and get this directly over here. So let's get the character, the movement, get character movement, and connect this over here. Let's do the same over here. So I think the bug is, it's because I'm calling this from a controller that is not replicated. So I think the value is getting loose because over here, because we are not calling from the same blueprint that I'm setting, like dragging the variable. I think it's getting the wrong character movement and it's setting on the server and not on the client. And you can see the conflict of the animation trying to set both for the client and the server at the same time, so it starts to flicker. But I think this way is going to work, I hope. I was not planning on doing this, so it's probably not going to work. So I'm going to set the max walk speed to 200 when I crouch, and 200 when I get up. So that's what I decided that I wanted to do. So you can set these values as you want. Now if I crouch, this is the server, so it's working fine. And there you go, the client now is working correctly. There you go, so that's it. Yeah, I think it's already half an hour of a video. Sorry that I rambled too much, but I'm trying to explain things that you can use in your own projects. And if you're going to watch this one and try to do the same, I want you to understand what are you doing. So you actually understand. So next time, if you're not watching a video, you actually remember this and try to do it yourself. That's the whole point. So yeah, that's it. I did the crouching. It's replicated. It's working on the three windows, the three players, the clients and the server. And you actually now can set your own speeds if you want to. In my case, I want the same speeds, but you can have difference. And yeah, I think that's everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you can help me, you can go into Patreon and you can get this project files if you help me. So I appreciate that, and if you liked it or have any comments, any feedback, leave it in the comments. I appreciate that always. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.